Welcome, guys, to How the Frack We Got Here, a show that takes the news and events of the week and try to make sense out of it all. I'm your host, th0le Buchanan, and on this show, we simply are all about the facts. There are plenty of news stations out there that simply want to do anything short but inform you. Here at How the Frack We Got Here, that's all we believe in. We go up to the left, we go up to the right, we go up to the middle of independence, we go up to all sides because there's more than one side of a story to everything. And you need to know it all in order to actually to actually formulate your own opinion. And that's what we try to do here at How the Frack We Got Here. Thanks for listening, and hold on. It's going to be fun.
I think that shit going to take over.
Nah, but seriously though, we got to start teaching our kids though, just financial wealth and literacy and all that shit early, because by the time they get to 9th grade, they should be just learning how to start businesses and how to. But they don't really need to know how to read.
Wait, stop.
I ain't gonna say that. I say that respectfully. I'm not saying that in a way to be literate, because you're not supposed to be illiterate, but you can.
What's more important, reading or math?
Math.
Told you.
Math. I think you could listen to a book on YouTube. You can still obtain the information. You don't have to know how to read. That's not reading and understanding. I believe common sense is better than everything. I'm a common sense nigga. I'd rather have zero book smarts and common sense, be able to read the room, be able to read life, be able to read people. I try to understand people, understand, you know what I'm saying? Like nowadays you can listen to a book. I just listen to the 48 Laws of Power, not to
you gotta read your contract, elves.
You don't have to
you can listen to that too. They got apps you can put it in and it'll read it to you. Are you crazy? Huh? It probably will. AI will now. That's what I'm saying. That's how freaky
you don't have
to
read. Shit can be told to you.
It'll be so. I'm not saying that in a bad way. Like you don't need to know how to read.
Floyd Mayweather don't read that shit.
You at a restaurant. Like it's mad shit you gotta read.
You saying that? You just gotta know what you like.
Ooh, oh. And people wonder why Jules Santana can't be found. Definitely won't find him in the library. Jesus Christ. Today's date, December 3rd, 2025. This is How the Frack We Got Here. I'm your host, th0le Buchanan. On the Frack We Got Here, we do take the events of the week and try to make sense out of it all. We ain't gonna make sense out of that shit. First and foremost, reading is fundamental. I could go down the list of the fact that reading and math are both fundamental, especially for young developing minds. I cannot stress the fact enough that I read comic books, I read mangas, and I still read instructional manuals for my job. Reading is fundamental. It helps out in so many other skills that you will need. So will math, but God help me. Please do not listen to that fucking idiot. I know it's too early. I promise for cussing, but he's a fucking idiot. Just don't listen to him. I am just amazed fully that he had the unmitigated gall to sit there and say there are apps out there that will read it to you. And yet he wonders why he's not considered a hip hop artist anymore. I mean, outside of the fact that, he was part of Dipset and they were fucking terrible, but I digress. The point I'm getting at here is, as I stop mid-intro of this entire podcast, and I want to say this, guys, because again, reading is fundamental. I cannot stress this enough. Whether it's a book, whether it's a comic, whether it's a manga, whether it's a graphic novel, reading helps out so much. And I cannot stress enough the fundamentals of reading. And not to repeat the United Negro College Fund, but a mind is a terrible thing to waste. Don't believe me? Ask Jules Santana. But anyway, welcome to How the Frack We Got Here. We are a news podcast that tries to bring you all the news, try to make sense out of it all. Before we get started, guys, let you know that we, again, are a news podcast. We pride ourselves on citing from most reputable sources with award-winning journalism. We do not do sensational news like Fox News, The Blaze, The Daily Beast, wherever you get your stream left or stream right views from. We simply don't do that. We provide you with just the facts and only the facts. At the same time, we do try to maintain our professionalism, although words do fly. At the same time, we do try to, we do make sure things that might be a little bit too graphic for your viewers. Viewer discretion is advised. Aside from that, welcome. I'm sorry. I had to show that mainly because that I can't stand. And I know I cannot stand when fools get on here and think that they're making plenty sense. That was about as dumb as Byron Donald, as Tim Scott, as loud as Stephen A. Smith trying to make a point about something. That's how that effing felt. And he thought, and you know what? He started off good. I'll give it to him. He started off great. He's like, yeah, you need to learn math and you need to make sure you got that down, but you don't even know how to read. If I was Jules Santana's publicist right now, I would be looking for another job. because he's an effing idiot. Just saying. Well, speaking of idiots, because he's not the only one that said something stupid, let's go to our favorite punching bag that is unfortunately still in the presidential seat for now. Taco, who decided to say, you know what? I don't believe in the word affordability. And I wish I could make that up. But he actually said it.
Our prices now for energy, but for gasoline are really low. Electricity's coming down. And when that comes down, everything comes down. But the word affordability is a Democrat scam. They say it, and then they go into the next subject. And everyone thinks, oh, they had lower prices. No, they had the worst inflation in the history of our country. Now, some people will correct me because they always love to correct me, even though I'm right about everything. But some people like to correct me, and they say 48 years. I say it's not 48 years. It's much more. But they say it's the worst inflation that we've had in 48 years. I say ever, but whether it's 48 years or ever, it's pretty bad. We had the worst inflation that we've ever had. Since last January, we've stopped inflation in its tracks. And there's still more to do. There's always more to do, but we have it down to a very good level. It's going to go down a little bit further. You want to have a little tiny bit of inflation. Otherwise, that's not good either. Then you have a thing called deflation. And deflation can be worse than inflation. But we have it almost, we'll soon be at a perfect level. But we inherited the worst inflation. But we have 20 states that are now selling gasoline at less than the $2.75. Think of that, $2.75. And it was at $5 under Sleepy Joe. Grocery prices are down with the cost of Thanksgiving turkey this year down 33%. It was lower than 33% lower than under the Biden administration. Egg prices are way down 86%. Thank you. And mortgage rates, despite the fact that we have an incompetent chairman of the Fed, a real dope, who should reduce rates. I saw even Jamie Dimon said he should be reducing rates. I never saw Jamie Dimon say that. I wonder why he said that. But he really said it because he's right.
And the one crazy part about all this, guys, is the rambling. I don't believe in affordability. I think it's a word cooked up by Democrats. And then the old man rambling. You know, oh, well, we got everything down. No, you didn't. Everything's up. Price of the energy prices are up. Grocery prices are up. Everything's up. And yet it seems that nobody has or doesn't want to correct him. And that's the one thing I don't like. And I get for journalists, you got to choose your words because he'll try to kick you out of the press room. He's tried that before, lost the case, had to get back credentials because the press have a right to interview the president. But what's so crazy about this, guys, is just that he believes affordability is a scam. He believes affordability is a scam. Are you effing kidding? And even more so, he's going this whole thing of, well, that guy at the Fed. Oh, you mean Jerome Powell? The leader at the Federal Reserve? The guy that you couldn't stand because he corrected you on live television about how much it would cost to basically put in that big-ass ballroom that you demolished the East Wing of the White House for? The same guy that stood there and said, oh, yeah, you don't got the numbers right about the budget. Or the fact that you hounded him in the typical bullying sense that to get him to cut Federal Reserve rates. And then you found out, no, that didn't happen the way you thought it was going to happen. And yet now you don't want to mention him by name. But you want to go on this whole thing of, well, the Democrats are all these hoax. I said, man, it must be amazing to be inside of Taco's head. And it's 2000, and it's honestly 2008 all over again. It must be amazing in his head to where he could sit there and spout off things and not be corrected. It must be freaking amazing. But you know what else is amazing that Taco gets is that they're bombing people. Him and his defense secretary, never sober Pete Hegseth, are out here bombing people, bombing supposed drug boats. Bombing supposed drug boats. Sorry, I said bolts. Boats. At the same time, giving next to nothing an explanation for it, even when he's been heard and Hegseth's been heard. Take them out. And here's what Hegseth says when pressed about that very same thing.
As you would, as any leader would want, you want to own that responsibility. So I said, I'm going to be the one to make the call after getting all the information and make sure it's the right strike. That was September 2nd. There's a lot of intelligence that goes into that, building that case and understanding that, a lot of people providing information. I watched that first strike live. As you can imagine, at the Department of War, we got a lot of things to do. So I didn't stick around for the hour and 2 hours, whatever, where all the sensitive site exploitation digitally occurs. So I moved on to my next meeting. A couple of hours later, I learned that that commander had made which he had the complete authority to do. And by the way, Admiral Bradley made the correct decision to ultimately sink the boat and eliminate the threat. He sunk the boat, and eliminated the threat. And it was the right call. We have his back, and the American people are safer because narco terrorists know you can't bring drugs through the water and eventually on land if necessary to the American people. We will eliminate that threat, and we're proud to do it.
So you didn't see any survivors, to be clear, after that first strike?
I did not personally see survivors, but I stand, because the thing was on fire. It was exploded and fire and smoke. You can't see anything. You got digital. This is called the fog of war. Now, the first couple of strikes, as you.
I just want to stop something right there. Basically because he's trying to say the fog of war. Really? That's what you're going with? That, hey, I wasn't here long enough because I had another meeting to go to, but I'm going to trust they got the strikes right. Keep in mind, they haven't produced any evidence, and this is not new. They have been bombing supposed drug cartel boats for a while now and have yet to produce any evidence, any whatsoever, that these drug cartels are actually moving in these boats, because they still believe in the war on drugs. We all know the war on drugs is pretty much bullshit, but it never ceases to amaze me that Hegseth just seems like a guy who clocks in at one of the most powerful position cabinets in our government and literally treats like an 8 to 5. Oh, I got another meeting to get to. They'll take care of it. No, that's not how it works. That's not how any of it works. But that's not the only thing, because Taco is now going after former armed services, Senator Mark Kelly, because he sat there and said what most armed forces people should know: not to follow unlawful orders. I wish I could make this up.
Arizona Democrat accusing Hegseth and President Trump of trying to intimidate him as he faces a potential court-martial. The Pentagon says it is reviewing Senator Kelly after his comments in a social media video addressed to military members, urging troops to refuse any, quote, illegal orders. Here's Senator Kelly a short time ago.
It's a dangerous moment for the United States of America when the president and his loyalists use every lever of power to silence United States senators for speaking up.
We want to bring in ABC News senior national policy reporter Ann Flatterdy and ABC's Christian Cordero in Washington with more. Ann, let's start with you. So what are the Navy's guidelines on firing on survivors, and what is the latest on the situation in Venezuela?
Yeah, so this issue is not.
So I'll stop it right there, because that basically goes into what we just covered with the fact of Venezuela now in the crosshairs of Trump and the S countries that he loves, but we'll get to that momentarily. But yeah, all he sat there and said was, you don't have to follow illegal orders. That's part of the military code. All armed service members, and if you are watching this podcast, please correct me if I'm wrong. I am more than certain this is actually ingrained in the armed service members. You do not have to follow illegal orders. And of course, Hegseth, who's never sober, and Taco, believe they're dictators, believe that everybody should, above all else, should just follow their orders and be fine. Where, again, they're trying to court-martial him, which I think is kind of laughable. You're trying to court-martial a guy that probably knows the military code better than you, and certainly better than Taco. But you're getting on him because he's telling other people, you do not have to follow illegal orders. I wish parts of the National Guard, I wish parts of ICE, that's not Gestapo, I wish part of the military that is being deployed, I wish that they would do all the same. You do not have to follow illegal orders. In this case, you don't have to follow Taco. or the defense department, or Secretary of Defense. I refuse to call him Secretary of War. Secretary of War sounds like somebody that likes to play Call of Duty and just wanted the title because they couldn't get it in the game. That's all I'm saying. Completely crazy. Really and truly completely crazy. But here's also what's crazy. I never thought in 2025 we will be talking about piracy, recording labels, and whether or not you might get internet police. I know, seems weird, right? But here's a story.
$1 case over online piracy today. The case could determine whether internet providers can be held financially liable if they fail to cut internet access to accounts suspected of piracy. But the company at the center of it all says the ruling could lead to entire communities losing internet based only on accusations. ABC senior Washington reporter Devin Dwyer has the details. Devin?
Diane, every day, billions of people illegally stream or download copyrighted material like music, movies, or TV shows. The key question before the Supreme Court is, are internet companies complicit in those copyright infringements simply by giving online pirates access to the web? Major record label Sony Music Entertainment says the answer is yes, that internet providers contribute to billions of dollars of losses every year by failing to cut off access to people who illegally download and stream content. They're seeking $1 billion from Cox Communications, one of the largest broadband internet companies in the United States. Now, Cox says the real culprits here are the individual users, and they say that suing internet companies over illegal downloads could drive them out of business and lead to, quote, mass evictions from the internet in some communities. Lower courts have sided with the entertainment industry here, saying that internet companies can be held liable for contributing to copyright violations online. Today, Cox is asking the justices to toss out that ruling to put limits on liability, and the case could have big implications for internet access and the prices we pay when a decision comes down sometime before the end of June. Diane?
So let's talk about this for a second. So anyway, recording industry are mad because supposedly, allegedly, people download illegal content all the time. And the record companies basically have ran out of ways to stop it. They've tried the DMCA, which again, folks have gotten around that. They've tried to have YouTube, and for anybody that's been on YouTube or any social media, we all know flag content or copyrights. We've all dealt with it. That was another thing. So what's left? Because none of it worked. So what's left that they can do? Oh, let's go after the source. Let's go after the internet companies that allow this. Really? The internet companies is the problem? I mean, don't get me wrong. I don't like Xfinity as much as the next person, but they're the only game in town. So if Moi wants to be online, whether it's for gaming, work, streaming, or doing podcasts such as this one, they're a necessary evil. I need them. But should Xfinity or Cox or Verizon or any of the other AT&T, any other services out there, why they should be held liable because they're just the highway? And I never understood that. Even more so, how did record companies, how did the recording industry manage to convince a Supreme Court that, hey, they're liable for allowing this? How? How are they liable? Because I use the highway analogy for this. Highways get us from point A to point B. We pay for the roads, we pay for access. Whether you pay in tolls or you pay in taxes, you're paying for access to the highway. For it to be open, for it to be maintained, all the above. Now, if someone decide to be a speed demon, and we all know speed demons, we all seen them. We're no stranger. Nobody is a stranger to any of them. If a speed demon decide to use the highway as their own personal NASCAR, and the cops cannot catch said speed demon, do we blame the people that created the highway for the ability for the speed demon to outrun the cops? Do you see how dumb that sounds? But that's what the recording industry is doing. They are turning around and saying, hey, these people are illegally downloading and they're using your internet access to do so. Internet companies are like, well, what the frack you want us to do? We want you to police them. well, then that defeats the purpose of what we're offering. We offer access. We don't offer monitoring. And like the journalist said, if the ruling does go through, that can change the way a lot of our ISPs may operate, because they don't want to get sued. They don't want to get sued by the recording industry because, let's be honest, the recording industry is a greedy, overbearing capitalist machine that consumes all and is greedy. But with the ability of downloading, with the ability of going across the grand line, using certain services that I will not say on here, they tend to take a hit because of the greedy highest prices. But that's just me. But now you're going after the ISPs to sit there and say, hey, either you police them or you're paying for their mistakes. I'm gonna be honest with you, because if any ISPs go down, people will always find a way to get on the internet. I mean, phones can be rooted. What's next? After you go off the ISPs, what's next? Cell phone providers? Cell phone providers are providing internet access too. So I guess if the ISPs goes down, who's the recording industry going through next? Because I'm gonna tell you, and that's why I say that's how stupid it sounds. Because again, I know it's Supreme Court, it's conservative leaning, it's conservative leaning. I get it. But at the same time, the ISPs are like, what other choice do you have? Because we're the only game in town. And if you decide to censor us, which they're not, if you decide to fine us, which again shouldn't happen, because no ISP is going to turn around and tell people, hey, we're going to monitor you the same way China does its people. And again, if you think for 1 second that's going to hold up, need I remind you of all the other roadblocks that have been tried, and yet people have still been able to get exactly what they want. And at the same time, the recording industry still complains. But we're going to see what happens with the ruling. But moving right along, guys, I wanted to cover this because, again, we did get our most recent Democratic representative sworn into the House. Apparently, it was unanimous, but grumbling on the right side, to release the Epstein files. Yet, AG Pam Bondi has yet to do so. I wonder if they're still trying to scrub Taco's name out of everything.
Makers is setting a new deadline for the Trump administration to update them on the release of more Jeffrey Epstein files.
Last month, President Trump signed the law requiring the Justice Department to release all unclassified records related to Epstein. That bill received overwhelming support in Congress. That happened, but now we are getting never before seen pictures and video of Epstein's private Caribbean island. The images and video were recorded back in 2020. House Democrats obtained these images from law enforcement authorities in the U.S. Virgin Islands, and it is that committee that released them earlier today.
NBC News senior national political reporter Sahil Kapoor is on Capitol Hill tracking this one. Sahil, first, walk us through these new images. What are they both revealing, but also explain where they came from?
Yeah, Clay, Democrats on the House Oversight Committee just released these images and videos from Jeffrey Epstein's private island that are believed to be from 2020. They said they obtained these images and videos through a request to the U.S. Justice Department. I want to show a couple of these images here. Again, believed to be from 2020. One photo shows a blackboard with redactions to some words written on it in chalk. There are other words we can read that appear to say power, deception, and music. Another photo shows a room, appears to be a dentist office setup with masks of men's faces hanging on the wall. I think viewers here could be forgiven for not knowing exactly what they're looking at or how this plays into the overall investigation. But Robert Garcia, the ranking member, the top Democrat on the House Oversight Committee responsible for the release of this, called the photos disturbing and said that his office is publicizing these to ensure public transparency in their investigation and to help piece together the full picture of Epstein's horrific crimes. Those are his words. Democrats also said they've received records from JP Morgan and Deutsche Bank and could disclose them in the coming days after reviewing.
And Sahil, I know you have new reporting on lawmakers asking Attorney General Pam Bondi for an update on the release of files about Epstein from the Department of Justice. Where do those things stand? Where do things stand with the documents?
Yeah, that's right, Kate. This is first to NBC News. I obtained this letter from 5 lawmakers spanning both parties and both chambers asking Attorney General Pam Bondi to give Congress essentially a status update on where they are in terms of producing the Epstein files. Remember that law was signed by President Trump after overwhelmingly passing Congress on November 19th, which gives the Justice Department just another 2.5 weeks before that 30-day timeline is up. So these lawmakers want to know if this new information that the AG says she has obtained regarding the Epstein files has any bearing on their ability to meet that 30-day timeline as required.
So what's crazy about this is, remember that Taco and the rest of the Republicans were all saying, we're going to campaign to get these files released. Then if you follow the timeline, all the pictures came out between Taco and Epstein. And Epstein was at Mar-a-Lago, and Epstein may or may have not kidnapped the 14-year-old. Taco also tried to stand and say, I know we had a falling out. Yes, I wonder over why. At the same time, I've never been to his island. I've never been there. And then when all the documents came out, oh, well, they should be released. And the documents didn't exist. And now they did. And now, after all the rigmarole, all AG Pam Bondi has to do is release the list. She has now been ordered to, and she is dragging her feet. I wonder why. Could it be the fact that maybe Taco's name appears more than Bill Clinton, aka allegedly Bubba? I'm just saying, if your current administration may be labeled in the fact that of the most notorious child predator and trafficker in modern history, and his name and picture and likeness and more than that appears in these files, I would be at the Department of Justice scrubbing as much as possible of Taco's name out of everything before I release it. Because the one thing that we know that Taco's administration is good at, it's redacting information. And yet complains that no one else gives them nothing. But we'll see. Like I said, I don't expect a lot out of this because they're going to scrub those. They're going to scrub those files, and at the same time, Taco does not look nervous. Keep in mind, Taco looked nervous a little bit earlier, and now, well, I mean, he still looks like shit, but relax, because I guess enough was scrubbed. And even if it wasn't scrubbed, keep in mind, folks, even if none of this wasn't scrubbed, it's on the responsibility of the AG to pursue charges. And much like the Georgia case, which we're going to talk about in a little bit, it kills me that the opinion of the Department of Justice still stands. What's that opinion? That the president cannot be indicted at the time he's in office, which I think is bullshit. Because we keep saying that no president is above the law, but yet every president is given a green light. If you commit war crimes, you should be held accountable. If you've committed things that have harmed or injured or even unalive people, you should be held accountable. It should not matter if your office is at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue or if it's right down the street. You should be held accountable regardless if you are the president or not. And I hate the fact the Department of Justice still has a standing opinion because William Barr held it, Jeff Sessions held it, and now Pam Bondi's going to hold it. Because trust and believe, we can sit there and say how horrible these Epstein files are. Watch, no action on her part comes from this when it comes to Taco. But I bet if old Bill had the same, I bet if old Bubba had the same rap sheet that Taco does in the Epstein files, best believe she'd be knocking on his door in Arkansas. That's all I'm saying. But moving right along, guys, we got to cover the story because this is funny as hell. Not really funny, but it is fun. Not really funny because, again, 2 National Guard members lost their life because one person opened fire on them. But it's the reason that this person that they're talking about was granted asylum by the Taco administration. And again, now Taco wants to put a pause on immigration. I wonder why.
Immigration after that deadly ambush in D.C. In a social media post, the president now threatening to ban people from what he has called third world countries. He's vowing to deport anyone who is, quote, incapable of loving our country or non-compatible with Western civilization. On top of that, Trump directed a U.S. immigration agency to conduct a sweeping review of people with green cards from so-called countries of concern. This all comes on the heels of that D.C. shooting on Wednesday that killed one National Guard troop and severely injured another. Officials say the suspected gunman was an Afghan national who worked with U.S. forces during the war in Afghanistan. NBC News Chief Justice and National Affairs correspondent Kelly O'Donnell joins me now from West Palm Beach, Florida, where the president is spending his holiday weekend. So, Kelly, which countries are on this list that the president is targeting with these new policies? And it's one thing to say it, but another to actually carry it out. Tell us what you know so far.
Good afternoon, Vicki. This is a case where the administration has identified what they consider to be 19 countries of concern when it comes to this immigration issue. And they are from places around the globe. Certainly Afghanistan is within that group, and the president has already said he wants a broader review of all the Afghans who came into the country under the Biden administration. But it goes beyond that. You have Iran, you have Cuba, you have Venezuela, you have other countries around the globe where there have been hostilities with the United States. But you're right, posting something on social media and the president's rhetoric around immigration is not the same as actually having a specific plan and a specific policy related to this. So we don't yet know how this would work. The green cards, of course, require check-in with federal authorities. And so the United States is in touch with people who possess a green card. And what kinds of scrutiny they will undergo with this, we don't yet know. But those green card holders from those countries could expect some additional screening or questions from the representatives of the Immigration Service. So that's where we start with this, the president responding to the shooting in D.C. of the guardsmen and the fact that the suspect in that is an Afghan national who was awarded asylum and came into the country through the Biden-era program and then approved for that asylum once the Trump administration was underway. And the White House says that that was something they could not prevent because of the requirements under the Biden program. That's why there's some pressure being put on the former administration, criticism rather, on the former administration.
Now hold that thought for 1 second, because keep in mind, guys, we just sat there and said, yes, that actually did happen during a couple of days ago, where literally a Afghan national who did serve with the U.S. military overseas did fire on a National Guard's post, killing 2 guardsmen, which we do feel for the families. And yes, he was deported, was allowed asylum by the Taco administration, which they're not saying. What's why he now wants to put the kibosh on allowing immigrants in. Now, you're probably wondering, again, I'm just going to bring up this list because it needs to be brought up. Here's the list. Afghanistan, Burundi, Chad, Republic of Congo, Cuba, Equatorial Guinea, elsewhere Guinea, Eritrea, Haiti, Iran, Laos, Libya, Myanmar, Sierra Leone, Somalia, Sudan, Togo, Turkmenistan, Venezuela, and Yemen. I apologize if I destroyed some of those names. But I just want to just bring up something that hasn't been seen in a while, because whenever it comes to the simple fact of the matter of how Taco feels about certain countries, I just want to bring up this wonderful gem and to think this was 7 years ago.
President Trump today questioned why the United States would allow people from Haiti and Africa into the country, describing those places using an expletive while suggesting people from Norway might be more acceptable. He reportedly made the comments during a White House meeting with a bipartisan group of senators. The White House tonight is not denying the president made the remarks. And we want you to know our report includes that expletive once so that you can hear the complete quote for yourself. And of course, it may not be appropriate for some of our younger viewers. NBC's Peter Alexander has details.
The president tonight apparently uncorking another astonishing statement, complaining to lawmakers in the Oval Office about protections for immigrants. Why do we want these people from, quote, all these shithole countries here? According to a Democratic aide familiar with the conversation, Mr. Trump was referring to African nations and Haiti. before suggesting the U.S. should have more people from places like Norway, whose prime minister he met yesterday. A White House spokesman tonight not denying the president's words, but saying certain Washington politicians choose to fight for foreign countries. But President Trump will always fight for the American people. It comes as lawmakers try to hammer out an immigration deal.
Deal or no deal?
With time running out for hundreds of thousands of young undocumented immigrants called Dreamers. The crass remark punctuating a wild day in Washington, with President Trump fiercely criticizing the controversial Foreign Surveillance Intelligence Act, or FISA, just hours before Congress was set to vote. The president resurrecting his unfounded attack on the Obama administration, claiming this is the act that may have been used to so badly surveil and abuse the Trump campaign by the previous administration and others. The intelligence community immediately erupting.
I thought the president's tweets, once again, were irresponsible and not thought through.
Even Republicans frustrated.
To be honest, the tweet was a mistake. The president is supporting the vote today.
If you're a member of the intelligence community and you woke up this morning and saw that tweet, it's hard for me to describe the outrage and consternation.
The president posted his tweet that contradicted the White House's public position after this.
So I'll stop it right there because it pretty much goes into other stuff. But that's the point I'm making here, folks. The point I'm making out of all this is this isn't the first time he has sat there and talked about shithole countries. And he has no problem saying that. And again, I feel like we are just are we just repeating ourselves this moment? Are we repeating 7 years ago to where he had no problem saying these countries where he's talking about Afghan and Africa. We literally just showed a graphic where he wants to basically restrict entry from certain countries. We just showed a graphic. And I hate to break it to you guys. This is the problem. The problem with all this is that he has no issue showing how racist he really is. Even more so that now the White House and Ice Barbie are trying to now twist the idea that this person was radicalized before they were allowed back in. And yes, she is on basically NBC's Meet the Press. Ice Barbie doing her best to make it seem like they're not at fault.
Into the attack on those two Guards members. What is the latest you can tell us about the attack, the suspect, Ramanullah Lakhanwal, and what you have learned about the motive, Madam Secretary?
Well, we know that this individual came into the country under Operation Allies Welcome and during the Biden administration, and that disastrous withdrawal that we all watched unfold in 2021. He's been in this country and was in the Washington state area. We do know that we're talking to his contacts and going through information, continuing to gather that as we go forward. But we're going to use every tool at our disposal to bring him to justice and make him pay for what he has done, not just to America, but how he's devastated these families and taken the life of one of our soldiers and devastatingly injured another one that we're still praying for each and every day. My heart goes out to Andrew and Sarah's families. I can't imagine what they're going through. And President Trump is absolutely dedicated to making sure that he's bringing this individual to justice, and anyone that he would have talked to, anyone that he knows that would have known about this plan and this attack, he will absolutely bring in, and there will be consequences and they will pay.
Yeah, and our condolences to the family of the Guards member who did pass. I do want to go back to this question, Madam Secretary. Do you know what the motive was at this point? Do you believe the suspect acted alone?
You know, we're still going through all of that information, and I'll let the FBI and DOJ reveal new information. But I will say we believe he was radicalized since he's been here in this country. We do believe it was through connections in his home community and state, and we're going to continue to talk to those who interacted with him, who were his family members, to talk to them. So far, we've had some participation, but anyone who has information on this needs to know that we will be coming after you and we will bring you to justice. We absolutely will persecute you because we do know that we will never allow this to continue to happen in our country, allow individuals who came to our country that were unvetted by Joe Biden, allowed to run free and loose, we are going to bring them to justice and make sure that they're returned out of this country if they aren't here for the purposes of being an American.
I want to follow up with you. I mean, you say something.
Ladies and gentlemen, the art of saying everything and nothing at the same time. This is, number one, I will never understand why Ice Barbie still is allowed to be on interviews and say nothing. Because here's the thing about Taco's administration. They don't believe in accountability. They don't sit there and say, you know what? We fracked up. We allowed a guy that we probably shouldn't have allowed in here. It's almost as if they cannot admit fault. Oh, well, he was serving under the Biden's administration as an Afghan national along with our troops. Okay. Well, we granted him asylum, but he was already in that mindset. What is it about the Taco administration and accountability that they dodge it more than an NBA player during a child support case? I will never understand it. Why? Just admit that you guys fracked up. There's no fault in the fact you fracked up. Just admit that you fracked up. But at the same time, Taco does what he does best. I've done nothing wrong. I've done nothing wrong. It's the black guy. It's Sleepy Joe Biden. It's the Democrats. It's never me. It's never me. I've never made a mistake. I've been perfect. I've been perfect. That's how he freaking sounds. At the same time, he in another news bit is saying, I might have to keep going with Obamacare. How do you, and again, MAGA people, how do you feel about this?
President Trump says he's open to extending Obamacare subsidies to prevent health insurance premiums from skyrocketing next year. Trump said last night an extension may be necessary. The White House has been circulating a plan to extend the subsidies for 2 years, but many Republicans are not on board, and there's only 1 month left to come up with a plan. The Trump administration has announced lower prices for 15 prescription drugs used by millions of Americans, including Ozempic. The cuts are being made through the Medicare price negotiation program. The move is expected to reduce Medicare spending on those drugs by more than 40%.
And also, I love the fact that he sat there and said, may be necessary. Oh, because your concept or lack thereof of a plan, because you wanted to remove the ACA, you wanted to kill Obamacare, you wanted to gut Medicare and Medicaid, you want to remove people off Medicare and Medicaid, you wanted to pull people off SNAP, and did not think for 1 second that all of this house of cards may fall in on each other. But I think we might have to extend the black guy's health plan. I think we might have to do it. And at the same time, I just wonder, for all you MAGA fans out there, how do y'all freaking feel? Y'all gotta be feeling like, because it's amazing. Not only, number one, you will vote against your own effing interests. You will shoot yourself in the foot, reload, and then wonder how you got a gunshot wound. But not realizing that you do know if his big, beautiful bill does go into place, a lot of you will lose your health care. The reddest states are the biggest welfare states when it comes to SNAP benefits, Medicare, and Medicaid plans and payments. Not the blue states, the red states. Tennessee, Kentucky, Mississippi, Georgia, Alabama, Florida, North Carolina, South Carolina, you all benefit. Texas, Oklahoma, you all benefit. And imagine what happens when those same constituents cry out and say, but what happened to my Medicare? What happened to my Medicaid? What happened? Yeah, bye. You voted for your own downfall. And trust me, that is coming. It really is. But you know a name that we haven't said in a while? ICE, Gestapo. Where are they now? Well, unfortunately, their next stops are Minneapolis and New Orleans.
Raids are taking place in Louisiana and Minnesota today. The Department of Homeland Security says it is targeting, quote, criminal illegal aliens in New Orleans. In the Twin Cities, senior law enforcement officials confirmed ICE agents are on the ground for an apparent large-scale operation that may include the arrest of some Somalis who are allegedly in violation of the law. Now, the raids come after President Trump blasted Somalians in that state during a cabinet meeting yesterday. Take a listen.
want them in our country, I'll be honest with you. Okay? Somebody would say, oh, that's not politically correct. I don't care. I don't want them in our country.
NBC News senior Homeland Security correspondent Julia Ainsley joins us now. Julia, tell us about these latest ICE operations and why the administration chose to send agents to the Twin Cities to focus on the Somali community.
Well, Vicki, you just showed there how President Trump has been focused on Minneapolis and in particular the Somali community. Now, Minneapolis and the St. Paul, the Twin City area has the largest population of Somalis living inside the United States. Many of them are naturalized U.S. citizens, but ICE says that some of them are in violation of immigration law. And so when they conduct this operation there, they may be picking up more people who are Somali than not when they conduct this raid. That is already happening. It began this morning. We're waiting to get more details on who they arrest and the numbers, and we'll be reporting those soon. But of course, this follows those remarks from President Trump and from Secretary of Homeland Security, Kristi Noem, because they have been accusing the Somali community in Minneapolis of fraud. There was an investigation from DHS that looked into whether or not Somalis in Minneapolis had been accused of Medicare fraud, of SNAP fraud, and other benefit fraud. And they said that about half of those had committed fraud while on visas inside the United States. So this is where that began. And of course, now it's ending with this operation in Minneapolis. But a senior law enforcement official says that Somalis are not the only ones who will be targeted in this operation.
Julia, what do we know about the operation that's happening right now in New Orleans?
Well, this is being done by a different agency. This is Border Patrol, which, of course, typically is in charge of enforcing the borders of the United States. But 1,500 of those have been pulled inside to do operations that we've seen in places like Los Angeles, Chicago, most recently Charlotte. Now they're going to New Orleans. There are about 250 Border Patrol agents who just today began operations in that city. What's different about this operation, though, Vicki, is it's not as widespread as we saw in those previous cities. They're specifically targeting immigrants who were arrested, held in jail locally inside New Orleans, and then were released. This is in violation of what ICE would like to see local police departments do. They want those people, if they're undocumented immigrants, to be handed over to ICE after they've served their time. But because New Orleans is a sanctuary city, they're being released without ICE being notified. And so those are the people we understand Border Patrol will be targeting in this operation. And we'll stay tuned to see if they go beyond that scope. But for now, that's their focus.
Julia Ainsley,
I still find it funny that literally and figuratively, law enforcement that ICE, Gestapo still believe that law enforcement is going to be on their side. I find that amazingly funny because, look, I am no fan of law enforcement. I'll be the first one to say it. I am no fan of law enforcement. But at the same time, they're sitting there saying this ain't got shit to do with us. If you want to go after people, that's on you. That's what law enforcement, that's what they're saying. They're pretty much saying, if you guys want to go after them, be our freaking guest. We're not going to freaking help you. And this is the one time I'll stand and say, all right, cops, I can go with you on this. But this is this Gestapo world tour. Keep in mind, he's not going after the red states. Oh, no, he's going after sanctuary cities, Minneapolis, New Orleans, saying that they're going after specific targets. Oh, how racially profiling. But then again, hey, the Supreme Court basically gave you the green light to racially profile, so we really shouldn't be surprised about that. At the same time, the whole catch and release thing, like, well, we're only going after those that have been in jail and then been released. So you are intentionally saying we're going to go after those supposedly in jail that have been in jail and now been released. No, you're not. This is the reason why the Gestapo and ICE, this is why I don't feel bad for federal officers that work for ICE. This is why I don't feel bad for federal officers that work for the Department of Homeland Security that literally go out and harass individuals that are simply making a living. You have families literally hiding, kids that have not been to school, people have not been to their jobs. They have to hide out of fear that the Gestapo would find them and just yank them, because we've seen it happen. We've seen it happen at grocery stores. We've seen it happen at hardware stores. We've seen it happen at schools, at graduations, things of that nature. The Gestapo ICE does not give one frack of pulling someone if they deem them illegal. We've also seen ICE get run out of cities. We've also seen ICE get denied service, especially in Chicago, which shout out to those restaurateurs for, exercising their right to refuse service or bathroom service to anybody, especially ICE. So I don't feel bad for them. But I do feel bad for the simple fact of the matter is that they are still able to move forward because they have the funding. Supreme Court has given them a green light, and Ice Barbie and Taco have nothing better to say except, oh, we're going to fulfill our campaign promise that our Nazi leader, Stephen Miller, wants a quota met because, hey, we're not racist. Bull and shit. Just saying. But some other quick news before we get to our wrap up, guys. If Taco's not draining the swamp, oh no, he's refilling it. Why? Because this man right here, Democratic Representative Henry Cuellar, a guy that basically him and his wife went down on bribery charges. Trump pardoned him. Pardoned. And I will keep saying this. It is amazing how many people Taco has pardoned that everybody seems to have the same situation. And what I mean by the same situation, guys, I mean the same situation of there's not a justified pardoning, if that makes sense. And I guess I'm trying to figure out the best way I can say this. It's not a justified pardoning. If you really think about it, even Tennessee, where he pardoned Glenn Casada, who used to be the speaker here in Tennessee. Glenn Casada and his representative, again, bribery charges, got pardoned. Chrisley from Chrisley Knows Best, who again, tax evasion, got pardoned. And I can keep going down the list because everybody he's pardoned, they've all had guilty pleas, found guilty by a court of their own peers, serving jail time. And now the newest one, who now, because he's pardoned, could run for office again in Texas. That's where that guy's from. But here's the thing that bothered me the most. Not the fact that I'm not surprised that Taco is just refilling the swamp instead of draining it. Here's the problem I have with this. House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries told CNN that the indictment of Cuellar was very thin to begin with. I think the outcome was exactly the right outcome, which he was saying, about whether or not he agreed with the president's pardon. Now, for all those that don't remember this case, the indictment came down because the couple accepted nearly $600,000 in bribes from two foreign entities for exchange for the congressman to agree on certain things in his capacity as a member of Congress. So they had this man dead to freaking rights caught in a sting, dead to freaking rights, took money, was about to serve a prison sentence, and is now pardoned by Taco. And yet, the current border czar, Tom Hoonan, who, by the way, I don't want nobody to forget, accepted $50,000 from undercover federal operatives, accepted $50K in cash, and his case just disappeared. Again, Taco isn't draining the swamp; he's refilling it for the next tour. And another reason why we know he's refilling it for the next tour is because a certain Georgia prosecutor just got their position, and here was the price they paid for it.
And we have breaking news. The new prosecutor in Fulton County election interference case is dropping the charges against President Trump and other co-defendants. Chief investigative correspondent Aaron Katersky has these breaking details for us. So, Aaron, this prosecutor took over after the previous prosecutor, Fani Willis, was disqualified for accusations of misconduct. So why is this new prosecutor looking to drop this case now?
He says that never before and hopefully never again will our country face circumstances such as these, the effort to overturn the 2020 election results. But in a 23-page decision, Peter Skandalakis, who is the head of this nonpartisan independent group that took over the case from Fani Willis, says the case is now nearly 5 years removed from President Trump's infamous phone call with the Secretary of State in Georgia asking for extra votes so that he could win the state and therefore the election. He says 2 years have passed since the grand jury returned charges, and there's no realistic prospect that a sitting president will be compelled to appear in Georgia to stand trial on the allegations in the indictment. And so he concludes, he says in his professional judgment, that the citizens of Georgia are not served by pursuing this case in full for what he says could be another 5 to 10 years. So in the end, there is no prosecution of President Trump and others who were charged in Georgia. There were a handful of guilty pleas at the outset of this case. It appears those will stand, but others who were charged, Mark Meadows, for example, the former chief of staff to the president, they will no longer be charged.
He's not.
So that was the price, ladies and gentlemen. That was the price of that individual becoming the new prosecutor in Fulton County, Georgia. I guarantee above all else, if you become the prosecutor, you have to drop this case. Keep in mind, the former prosecutor, Fani Willis, and her team were prepared to go after Taco and the infamous call about the 11,000 votes that he needed to overturn and win Georgia. We all heard the call. It screamed election tampering, and Fani Willis was ready to go at the bat. And we can go down the timeline if we can go down the timeline, but really it's no point, because Taco claimed he was running a campaign. He had no time to be in court. They pushed it back as far as they could. Then he became president. Then in the middle of him becoming president, then Fani Willis had her own scandals, which Trump tried to point out that, hey, she had a imperfect relationship with a prosecutor on her team. That got cleared out. Trump became president, and when he became president again, it's like all his court cases are washed away. And what happened? Oh, use his influence to get Fani Willis removed. Even though she appealed, they stuck with the appeal. The appeal did not go through. At the same time, a new prosecutor was selected, and just like I called it, they were going to drop the case. Again, election interference would have probably been the case that if Fani Willis was able to go through with it, if she was able to prosecute Trump like we will do anybody else, he would not be president right now. He'd be behind bars. He would be. But I keep saying you want to know why people have such a hard time believing that the president cannot be held accountable? It's because of shit like this. Because, well, we couldn't go after him for another 5 to 10 years. Why is that? The president apparently is too busy to go to court? Not necessarily true. It's just the fact that he sat there and saw a potential problem, uses influence, because I guarantee if he didn't become president, he'd be in that courtroom trying to drag it out once more. But because he is, and for some odd reason, we cannot pursue, and I don't know why. I do not know why that we cannot pursue the president like a normal human being, because that's all he is, a normal human being that's just in a seat of power. But he is not above the law. But yet, for every domino we think that Taco should fall under, he seems to avoid, tap dance around, and strut like he's innocent when we know differently. But anyway, Luigi Mangione is in court, and I want to play this first before we play what was said by the Luncheon Lawyer on Instagram, because they point out something very interesting about this case.
This morning returns to a New York City courtroom where he has already pleaded not guilty to killing United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson. Mangione smiling for the camera Monday, but turning stoic as prosecutors showed video of the murder and images allegedly of Mangione in a New York City hostel, a coffee shop, a taxi, and later the McDonald's in Altoona, Pennsylvania, where he was arrested. For the first time, the court hearing the manager's 911 call, saying customers spotted the bushy eyebrows and thought he looked like the CEO shooter in New York. Officers moved in as Mangione was eating breakfast, but defense attorneys say police had no warrant to seize and search his backpack and asked to exclude the contents, including a notebook in which prosecutors say Mangione revealed a plan and a motive, writing, "So let's say you want to rebel against the deadly, greed-fueled health insurance cartel. What do? You whack the CEO at the annual parasitic bean counter convention. Well, they say the backpack also contained the murder weapon, a 3D printed gun.
Should the judge determine that the evidence not be entered into trial, this is going to be very detrimental to the prosecution's case, because this is all of the physical evidence they have, including the journal that was found in the book bag, the alleged murder weapon, as well as his statements that he gave to law enforcement during the time of arrest.
A Pennsylvania correction officer testified Mangione talked to him about having a pistol and it was 3D printed. Mangione was on constant watch because, as one officer put it, the prison did not want an Epstein-style situation, a reference to jailhouse suicide. Outside court, Mangione supporters lining the sidewalk, a van driving by projecting Mangione's face and slogans about the case. This hearing is expected to last for several days as his lawyers try to get some key evidence thrown out, Michael.
All right. Now, here's what's so crazy, because as the guy mentioned about key evidence, and this is the one reason why I wish this was not said. This should have been said, but we literally had to go to Instagram to find this. The Luncheon Lawyer on Instagram, if you don't know who that person is, you definitely should check them out, because she points out something very interesting that, well, people should be paying attention to.
Mangione is back in court this morning with his lawyers trying to get key evidence thrown out, and if they succeed, the prosecution is in trouble. Quick recap. Luigi is suspected of unaliving United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson. Police officers received a tip that the suspect was at the McDonald's, and to the McDonald's they went. His lawyers say police pulled up to that McDonald's already convinced that Luigi Mangione was guilty, 100% sure of his guilt. So they walk in and they start interrogating him off rip. And as you can see in this photo, he's cornered. So the police get in there, they start asking, what are you doing in New York? Give me your ID. If you give me a fake name and a fake ID, you know you can get in trouble, right? They stand him up. They place him in cuffs. He is not free to leave. Then one officer gets the bright idea to reach for the backpack. The officer opens it and searches the backpack. Mind you, at this point, no Miranda warnings, no search warrants, no nothing. Inside that backpack, the officer finds a gun and a journal. The journal is important because prosecutors are now claiming that this contains confessions and motives for why Luigi Mangione would target the healthcare CEO. And suddenly, when that officer finds that weapon in there, they start scrambling because that officer knows that she has to come up with some justification for searching that bag without a search warrant. So the officer says, oh, I'm checking to make sure that there are no bombs in here. Oh, so now you're a bomb expert. Then why didn't you call the bomb squad? What experience and training do you have spotting and disassembling bombs, especially if the bomb is hidden? That's new. So the officer, in my opinion, knew she was wrong because according to the legal filings, another officer on the scene says we probably need a search warrant for that. Yeah, whoever that officer is, y'all probably should have listened to him because clearly he was the one with common sense. But instead of getting a search warrant, the police take the bag back to the precincts and continue going through it. 7 hours later. 7 hours later, they finally get a search warrant to search the book bag that they already searched and know full well what's inside. I've seen several seasons of Suits, and I don't think that's how this works. So his lawyers, Luigi Mangione's lawyers, are arguing that the gun, the bag, and the journal at the very minimum needs to be thrown out because the officers violated his constitutional rights. Honestly, this makes no sense. It is not that difficult to get a search warrant, particularly in a case like this, a national case. It probably would have taken them 30, 45 minutes. But because they did not do that, the whole prosecution is shaky. If that evidence is kicked out, the gun, the book bag, the journal, the alleged murder weapon is gone, the bag is gone, and the journal that prosecutors say is basically a confession is gone. And then all of the strongest evidence linking Luigi Mangione to the crime disappears, making the case a whole lot harder to prove. I'll keep you updated on what the judge says.
Crazy, isn't it? Crazy. And yet, I don't see ABC, NBC, CBS News pointing this out. And maybe I could be wrong. I'm not glued to the news stations 24/7, even though I do watch a lot of news. I've yet to see anybody from there point that out. Because ABC hinted at it. I'm sorry, not ABC. NBC hinted at it for a second, saying, well, they're trying to get key evidence thrown out. Well, what's the key evidence? Oh, well, his book bag that they searched without a search warrant. I'm not a lawyer. But I will say this: if I was his lawyer, if I was Luigi Mangione's lawyer, I'd be smiling a mile wide right now. Because how else can these cops defend themselves and saying, oh, so you basically searched his bag without a search warrant and without probable cause? Well, just making sure there wasn't a bomb in there. Shouldn't you have called, as the Luncheon Lawyer pointed out, shouldn't you have called the bomb squad? And then 7 hours 7 hours that you've had his information, 7 hours that you had his possessions, and then a search warrant pops up. Again, I'm very curious about this case because, yeah, no matter how you feel about it, yes, this person did go to extremes and take in unaliving a CEO of a healthcare company. Although that same CEO was pushing forward an AI program that was automatically denying claims by the second, but it doesn't justify why that person should be taken off the board. But let's also be honest here. I still sat there and said, for everybody that has a negative story about healthcare, you're going to find it very hard to find a group of sympathetic people that believe that what he did was wrong. Very hard pressed. But we'll see, because if the judge does throw out those key pieces of evidence, prosecution's going to have a hard time trying to get their second-degree murder charge. Just saying. But moving right along, guys, the last story that we do got does come from Tennessee, unfortunately, because we did have a special election for a representative seat. Unfortunately, for us that do believe that Tennessee may finally get out of the red, unfortunately, Tennesseans have sat there and decided, no, we're going to stay. We're going to stay with the red, and blue is bad. And I wish I could make that up.
I have breaking news right now as a winner has been selected in Tennessee's 7th Congressional District. Republican nominee Matt Van Epps has won and will take over the seat that former Representative Mike Green resigned from back in July. Let's bring in NBC News Chief Data Analyst Steve Kornacki, who's been at the big board all night. So, Steve, break down how Van Epps pulled off this victory here.
Yeah, Gotti, really interesting. I think one of the things we've seen, as you can see, about 3/4 of the vote is in right now. Matt Van Epps, the Republican, leading by 8 points, about a 10,000 vote margin over Afton Bain. You know, what's interesting about this district is there's a big Democratic area right here. It's the city of Nashville, or it's part of the city of Nashville. And you know what? Afton Bain, the Democrat, did really well here. We're still waiting. There's more votes to come in from there. But this is a massive margin for Bain here. She won. She's leading by 65 points in Davidson County. She got very high turnout in Davidson County. So that was a very encouraging sign for her. But what has happened as this map has filled in tonight is we have seen in rural Republican areas, in more swingy areas, and critically, I think, in the suburbs, the well-to-do suburbs of Williamson County, immediately south of Nashville, I think Van Epps exceeded expectations, and I think he did it with a flood of late interest in this race. One of the things, Gotti, that we've been tracking as these results came in tonight was the difference between the vote that was cast early. This was cast weeks ago, days ago, the early vote, versus the election day vote. The folks who woke up today, decided to go out and vote, and did so in person at the polls. There is a massive difference between how these candidates did, depending on which vote we're talking about. Bain won the early vote. Van Epps has an absolute landslide in the same day vote. Republicans, Gotti, talked about this race drawing national attention in the last week. They talked about Bain having taken some far left positions, having some inflammatory rhetoric in the past. They said they had shined a light on that. They had woken up Republican voters in this district. Maybe they had woken up swing voters in this district who may not be nuts about Trump and the Republicans right now. And they had turned those voters against Bain and motivated them to vote. Looking at the turnout that we're seeing same day, I think there's some evidence in these results that that is what happened. So again, overall, Republican district, typically Trump won it by 22 points. Republicans were, I think, kind of panicking a bit last week when polling showed this to be close to a dead even race, but Van Epps ahead by 8 points. I think there'll be some more Democratic vote to come here out of Davidson County, Nashville, but there's going to be an awful lot more Republican vote. So you may be looking at a margin that finishes somewhere right around what you're looking at. Republicans, I think, Gotti, would love to see that number go high and be able to say double digits. We'll see where it ends up landing.
So really, guys, at the end of the night, unfortunately, Matt Van Epps was declared the winner. Afton Bain did actually call to congratulate him, and Tennessee stays red. It sucks. It does. I live in Tennessee, born and raised in Tennessee, and Tennessee has been red for as long as I know. Only because I've said this before and I'll say it again. We do have idiots in this state, and I say idiots because I've never understood that in the state of Tennessee that unless you are rich or well off, that you would vote Republican. Unless you, again, like I said, unless you were rich or well off. I am not talking about somebody that makes less than $70,000 a year. You're not the guys I'm talking about. Everybody else is everybody else in the 6 inches and up. That's what they talk about Williamson County and the rest of the counties that they're talking about. Those areas, yeah, those folks did okay. Those folks did okay. Quiet you. Sorry. Those folks did okay. Are doing okay. So what happens in this case? What happens in this case is the same thing. Now, do not get me wrong, there was some positive points from this. There was a lot more Democratic voting done in Nashville, but Nashville's always seen as more Democratic than Republican, even though we are in a red-ass state. And the same margin for Taco and the Republicans actually getting Republican votes was actually cut in half. There are some positives from this. Matt Van Epps will only hold a seat for a year because, again, midterms are next year, which means that seat's going to be up for re-election again. But this is why I say, ladies and gentlemen, folks, votes matter. This is why I say for people in red states, and please hear me clearly when I say this, you are voting for your own interest. You are voting against your own interest. The same folks that, that tell you on Fox News that red is good and blue is bad are pretty much allowing you to shoot yourselves in the foot. I have heard you MAGA, Trump, conservatives all the time. Taxes are going up, food's up, gas is up, all this stuff is up. But you vote in people like Marsha Blackburn. You vote in people like Governor Bill Lee. You vote in people like Andy Ogles. You vote in people like Brad Sexton. You vote in these individuals whose job is to line their own pockets first, screw over their constituents second, and then somehow convince you that they're doing a good job enough for you to reelect them. And even now, Marsha Blackburn, that bitch, and yes, I am saying that bitch because she is one, is eyeing the governor's seat. The last thing that bitch needs to be next to, if any seat, needs to be a seat to prison for the stuff that she's tried to pull. Governor Bill Lee is an idiot because he has done nothing. He has done nothing to basically add to the comfort of those that aren't signing away donations to his campaign. And Andy Ogles, biggest Trump ass kisser this side of Lindsey Graham. And you know what's scary? And here's the thing. You know what scares them? What scares them is people actually thinking. And I hate to say this, Republicans love the ill-educated. They do. Oh, so you said all Republican voters are dumb? Yeah. You're either dumb or duped. Look, let me tell you something. There's two spectrums of the Republican voter base. The rich and the well-to-do idiots. That's it. You have the rich, idiots, ill-voted. Those are the only two groups out there. Oh, and somewhere in the middle, racists and bigots. But outside of that, that's the spectrum. Republicans love the ill-educated. Hence why Tennessee's education rating is in double digits. Hence why our median job income isn't above $65,000 for the state. Think about that. Our median income for the state of Tennessee is not above $60,000. It's somewhere in the area between $45,000 to $50,000, give or take $1. The median income for the entire state that used to bring in billions off tourism and everything else. And that's the median income. You have to damn near make six figures to live comfortable in Tennessee now. Comfortable meaning that just to have a house. House prices are ridiculously high. Property taxes ridiculously high. And at the same time, these very same people are too busy making hand over fist while screwing over constituents. And come election time, when people are trying to introduce different things, oh, this sounds radical and socialism. I'm going to go vote for Republican because I feel safe because red means safe. Red means safe, blue means bad. And Republicans have, again, solidified their monolith. I am only saying this, guys, because, again, with the midterms coming up next year, vote differently. Press the candidates. Because outside of the fact, unless you're a racist bigot, outside of the fact, unless you are well off in life, I don't see any other reason, and outside of the fact that if you're not a white male, I don't see any other reason why anyone else would vote conservative. because conservative values have nothing to do unless you fit that specific criteria. Oh, and then you bullshit about loving God on Sundays. Forgot that part. But that being said, we're going to move on to our feel good segment, because usually how the Frack We Got Here, we do cover a lot of things, our doom and gloom. Sometimes make you faith many, but hey, it's Wednesday. Tomorrow's Thursday. We will leave you guys out some good vibes and vibrations. Now, we do know last week we did have Thanksgiving or Friendsgiving or Festivus, however you believe it. Hopefully you got to enjoy it with some friends and family and got to relax a little bit. This story is basically surrounding a food kitchen that actually helped to serve people during that time and the impact that it had on many of the people that go through its doors.
To feed families in crisis. This morning, we're shining a spotlight on a food pantry in Georgia that's helping out neighbors in need just in time for Thanksgiving. Senior national correspondent th0le is there. Good morning, Steve.
Good morning to you, George. We are shining the spotlight, as you say, on Must Ministries, north of Atlanta in Marietta, Georgia, where on a normal day, they serve hundreds of families and feed many, many families with 4 tons of food a day. The big item this morning is going to be the young turkeys. They have hundreds of people who are waiting outside right now. They told us they had an event last weekend where they served 50% more families than normal. Joining us now is someone who gets help here, yes. Elizabeth Orbell. Right. How are you?
I'm good.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us this morning. You live in a senior home nearby?
Yes, I live in Walter Ridge, down the street, a senior citizen building. Yes.
You told me it's okay to share this. You're also a SNAP recipient.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me, what did you get this morning?
This morning, I got everything I needed for my Thanksgiving dinner. I got dressing, I got cranberry sauce, I got vegetables, I got a big turkey.
And how important is this for you?
This is very important to me, because with the SNAP benefits being shut down, I didn't know how I was going to be able to do a Thanksgiving dinner, but now I am able, thanks to Must Ministry.
And you share food?
Oh, yes. In fact, I told some of the people that live in my building to come down today, and we take our food and we put it together to make sure nobody goes hungry.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for joining us this morning. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Wish you a happy Thanksgiving.
All right. Same to you.
Joining us now is someone who I've known for some bit, my man Steve. Fred Blankenship. This is the man. He is the morning anchor at WSB here in Atlanta, one of the greatest stations in the country. Our affiliate station, we've known each other for a number of years. Your station is doing something great, though, this morning.
You know, Steve, the gap is there, right? People need the help. So we wanted to fill that gap. So with the help of the United Way Greater Atlanta, WSB TV got together, thanks to you, raised over $150,000. And what that means, that's 550,000 meals to people in need. $25 helps a child for a week. $50 helps a family get through a crisis. $100 restocks the shelves. $250. I get loud when the numbers go up, Steve. Changes somebody's world.
Making a difference.
Making a difference?
Hey, thank
all
you.
the time.
It's always good to see you. Thank you very much. Really appreciate you and WSB. If you would like to help, you can go to a QR code at the bottom of your screen or visit our website for more information. Back to you guys.
Thank Craig for us. He is fantastic. I've followed him for many, many years. I'm surprised he didn't dance, because usually he's always dancing on social. But what he was saying, the impact it can have is so vital. Steve, thank you for being.
I always love the fact when I see 2 black men greet each other on television. It's always funny, especially they know each other like my man. It's like the Obama skit from Key and Peele, if you ever seen it. It's like you can tell when we know each other. It's like it's more than just a modified handshake and high five. But again, just love to see it. But yeah, with that being said, guys, again, I know Thanksgiving has passed, and of course, Mariah Carey has unthawed by now. But look, just if you have and I will say this as I'm wrapping up. If you have the ability to help or give, please do so. Please don't break yourself trying to help somebody else, and then you have 2 people stuck. If you have the ability to give, whether it's food, whether it's donations, whether it's just your time, volunteering somewhere, if you have the ability to make an impact, please do so, because that's what we need in the world right now. We certainly can't depend on Taco and them to help us out. But that's going to do it for this podcast, guys. Thank you all for watching, for liking, for letting people know this is live. I certainly appreciate that. Shameless plugging as usual before we do get out of here, guys. Shout out to APR TV. Why? Because, well, how the fact can you see on APR TV? It is an app on the Roku channel store or Amazon Fire TV app, along with other shows that show there as well. Please definitely check them out. You will not be disappointed. Also, Blurred Station, again, a place that's for us, by us, with content that you would love to see. You definitely should see. Movies, television, anime, you name it, it's there. BlurredStation.com, where you can find it. $10.99 a month to stream on Blurred Station, and Blurred Station can stream on all smart devices. Please check that out. Also, check us out, How the Frack We Got Here, on YouTube at How the Frack We Got Here. Literally, if you type in How the Frack We Got Here, that pops up along with my mug on multiple ones. Like, share, subscribe, hit that notification button, guys, so that way you'll know when we go live. Simply put, guys, we cannot do any of this without your support, so we definitely do appreciate hearing How the Frack We Got Here. Definitely make sure to keep us connected. Not only can we found on Facebook, but YouTube, TikTok, Instagram. Like us, follow us everywhere. We would certainly appreciate it. My other show, the Get Bit Podcast, every Friday at 8:30-ish, where we talk about video games, anime, cartoons, things of that nature. You can definitely find us there, guys. Also on YouTube at the GB Podcast. Like, share, and subscribe as we go live every Friday. We are returning back from our Thanksgiving vacation week off. Hopefully this Friday with news that you can use. As for myself, guys, you can find me, Black_Spartan615. That's my personal social page. You can like and follow me there. You can talk to me too. Just don't make it weird. I want to start blocking people, have to start doing that. Also, like I said before, mental health is important. I cannot stress this enough in the cosplay community that we did lose one of our own because of cyberbullying and things of that nature. Guys, I cannot stress this enough. You are needed. You do matter. You are needed for this wonderful song of life to add your verse to it. So there are plenty of areas out there. There is the 998 suicide line number if you do need that. There's people to talk to. Again, you are not alone, especially during holiday season where it can be rough for some. Please reach out. And also, if you got friends, check on them, whether they're your small friends, your strong friends. Check on them, make sure they're doing all right, because that's what we need to do more in this world. Also, don't doom scroll. I know Taco makes your head hurt. He makes my head hurt along with these Republicans every goddamn day. But do something that makes you happy. Do something that brings you peace. Get off the phones. Go out. Go enjoy outside. I'm loving outside because it's freaking cold. I am a winter person because of this. I don't do well in summer, but I'm happy right now it's cold. But again, go outside. Go do something that makes you happy. Go do something that brings you peace, because right now, the midterms are coming up. Democrats, you know what you need to do. You are the only other game in town. You have smart, progressive women to lead the charge. I am not saying anything to Hakeem Jeffries, although I really wish he would shut the frack up. I am saying to Nancy Pelosi, as she's on her way out, thank you for your service. I am also saying to Chuck Schumer, it's time that you step down and let the women lead. That's how you save democracy. Because women, they've always saved democracy, especially Black women. Shout out to them. But the last thing I'll say about How the Frack We Got Here, it's all about staying informed. We are not trying to reinvent the wheel, guys. We are simply giving you all the information, allowing you to make up your own mind, but we do provide a logical step that goes along with it. We do better as society once we're informed. We're progressive. We move forward. We try to right the wrongs from our past and make decisions now that we should have done back then. Like electing our first Black woman to the Supreme Court, electing our first Black woman as the Federal Reserve Governor, and hopefully one day electing our first Black woman we call Madam President. All great things. When we don't learn from history, we are doomed to repeat these things. That's why we keep asking ourselves, why does everything go about our paycheck? Why are we electing different politicians but still the same old game in Congress? And most importantly, how the frack we got here. Thank you all for watching, guys. Please take care of yourselves and each other, and I promise we will all get through this. Live long and prosper, guys. Peace.